will come out of it. Boom. I'll tag you. What's happening, Melissa Deehan's? Melissa Deehan's in the house. I barely made it. 15 minutes late. That's okay because we have plenty of time. We don't have anything to do until I think about 3.5 hours from now. We have Kirsty Leon. So we have Melissa, the bull in the china shop. Deehan is in the house.
Oh, here we go. Gently in. Yeah, I don't think so.
You don't think so? You look great. You look good.
Thank you.
I told you that before.
I feel good.
Yeah, you look real good. Yes. What Kool-Aid are you drinking lately? What's going on? You reached out to me. Everybody's been in limbo.
Yeah.
Everybody's been in.
You know, I was in the same space, and I kind of feel like I went off the grid over the last couple of months, and just from that silent space. Well, they say the quieter you become, the more that you hear, and that's kind of like what's been happening. The more I'm uncovering about myself, the more chaotic the world looks, but at the same time, the more I'm understanding. It's a bit of a weird way to try and explain it, but I reached out because in this silent space, I had these big, deep realizations, right? And the biggest thing was, well, we're observing the world right now, and it looks like a bit of a shit show. And a lot of people are really kind of losing it. You just said, when you came on here this morning, you were saying about waking up feeling this energy of just being completely done. Well, in order to get to this place, I had to go there first, which is where I've been. And so over the last few months, I had to say goodbye to a person who I didn't think I would ever part with. And the grief that came with that, the anger that came with that, the chaos that came with that, I wasn't expecting. And that person is me.
Right.
It's me. I got so sick of my own shit, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So
real shit. Real shit.
Well,
you start that show again, you need to change it from real talk to real shit.
I have invested, I'll put it this way, I've invested a lot of my time, energy, and presence over the years getting to a place where I really, really, really understand myself. And as you know, zero pointing has been a huge part of that puzzle. The more I chose to spend that time in understanding myself, as we all do, via relationships or interactions with the world, understanding our history, our life experiences, trauma, the more time I spent understanding myself, the less I was actually able to deal with my own bullshit. There's no other way to put it. And so the minute you said that this morning, because we were talking for a couple of minutes before we actually remembered to press live, it was the same. I was in the same space. And it's such a big mix of anger, of grief, but of acceptance and of let's do this shit, let's change it up, let's do whatever we need to do in order to change up whatever is it going on in our life that we're not happy about. Because excuse me, we've, in exploring ourselves and understanding ourselves at this point, we know what it feels like to deal with bullshit, with trauma, with all of this stuff. But it almost it felt like we were on some sort of a loop of being distracted left, right, and center by things that would just pull us straight back into these old stories. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of that shit.
I'm in this. I'm converging with you. Yeah, different words, different. But I mean, yeah.
You couldn't not. You can't not see the things you have worked through now. You can't not see that being reflected back to you. And in a heartbeat, somebody can get pulled back into old cycles, old patterns. And for me, what happened was it felt like everything that I've ever gone through, it felt like it was all compounded.
Yeah.
So that's how I would describe the intensity of what was going on. And from a lot of people, like what I'd seen on social media, even though I did try to come away from it, many times, I would see people talk about the intensity of what they were living through. How am I here again? When is this shit going to stop? I can't hold it anymore. I can't deal with this anymore. And it was like the more chaos was brought up in a person, the crazier the world looked. But it was like nobody had anything to hold on to anymore. It was just, I like describe it as no one's driving the fucking train. It's just gone. It's just gone. We're all on it.
Yeah.
We're all on it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went through this oh man, it wasn't easy. Let me tell you, it's been the toughest 2 months of my life, 3 months, because I knew it was coming. I could feel that it was coming, and I needed to really pull everything out of the bag to cut ties with this version of myself. And that bitch wasn't going down without a fight, and there's no other way to say it. I think that's why a lot of people are
that
really.
Bitch is you. That's because
yeah,
that bitch
but
is
it is.
you.
It is. I know, and so I knew all of the ways that I could screw myself over into thinking that I was way back, further back than I actually was, or how do I even say this? I knew all of my own escape routes, my own self-sabotage buttons, my own bullshit stories. I knew my everything. There was no hiding from me. So when I have gone to the depths of committing to doing the work that I've done on myself, and then I allow myself to absolutely take the piss with myself via my experiences outside of me, well, it's completely counterproductive, isn't it? And that's what I got really sick of. But it was really difficult because, like I said, no one knew me better than I knew myself. But I'm talking about two versions of me here. I'm talking about the very wounded, dodgy one, who I love the shit out of, by the way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And the more I embraced this version of me, the more I was able to make peace with the other one. She's pretty cool. She's kind of calm, and she talks all nice, and she goes into these quiet places. But then she comes out like a goddamn
sugar and spice and everything nice, right?
But that was it. I got to really see over the last few months in this quiet space both versions of me quite literally fighting for a place in this world. Yeah. Yeah.
That's trippy. That's
really
trippy.
And I think more than anything, what I observed was the thing or patterns that kept me The things that kept looping me back into my story was my association with the experiences. So what I mean by this is, say I felt the depths of grief, and I'm like, I don't want to feel this, and I would go and distract myself from doing that at all costs, right? I'm feeling the depths of separation, of anger, and I would literally, like I said, do anything to not feel it. But I'd also remember the path that I've taken to get to this point, and that wasn't gentle. I've got some bruises and shit. I don't know how I have all my limbs on, but yeah. So I also remember what it's taken to get me here. And I really like this version of me. I really like I like the space that I come into and I can feel a vast difference. But I understand that both need to be experienced as one. And so when I detached from the words, the programs of grief, the programs of separation, the programs of heartbreak, the programs of stillness, the programs of joy, it allowed me to tap into the feelings, like the frequency. I'm talking about the frequency.
Yeah.
Right.
Without anybody's face representing that frequency or any event, right? Just the feeling, right?
Yeah. So if anything, if I was experiencing, like I said, if I was experiencing grief, I would feel grief compounded. This is what it felt like. I tried to write about this. So it's like the grief of the loss of relationships, my dad's death, my dog from when I was 7. I mean, I'm talking about compounded, all of these things that I had gone through, consciously gone through, to quite literally pull all these shards of myself back. And it would feel so big. I would literally want to anesthetize myself, sedate myself, push the feelings down so I wouldn't have to feel them. But also I understood at the very same time the freedom in feeling. But I didn't know how to do it. And in this silent space that I've been in, the trippiest shit happened in that I was there one of the days and it was like I could feel this immense sadness. I was aware that I wanted to sedate it, shut it down. I was aware I wanted to feel it. And it was like 2 aspects of myself said, let's work together for this. And so I got to feel or tap into the tangible frequency of what grief was. So I could physically allow grief to quite literally move through me, like like a pinball machine. Like you I don't know how to describe this. You like pull the little lever thing, the ball just pops all over the place, like I don't know what. That's what it felt like inside. Grief just going all sorts of playing full out, banging off this, banging off that, but not like wanting to kick out through the game, which is what I would have been like. I just want to kick out of this. Let me out. I don't want to feel. No, this was like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you the space. I'm going to give you the time. I'm going to work with you on this. Let the feelings have their way. Just fucking let's do it. Let's do it. And then I did it one time. And then I did it again and again and again. And I understood that these we don't know the like if I said to you right now, bring to mind the word, just bring to mind the word separation. If I said to you, bring to mind the word trauma. If I said to you, bring to mind bring to mind the word distraction, bring to mind the word happiness, right?
Yeah.
When you're back with me, right, you feel the difference between all of those words. Now, the words are the programs we're experiencing. But the programs are so multifaceted, so have so many overlays that we don't actually even, if we were to stay dealing with the programs without actually integrating any of this, we'd be on the same hamster wheel for a very long time. And what feeling the frequency, really allowing yourself to tap into the frequency of these words allows is space and stillness. And from this space of stillness, I'm telling you, all sorts of magic has just really started to kind of go down. And I didn't know. I really didn't know that that was even a thing.
Oh, what?
So I didn't have. Here he goes now with my accent. I love my Irish accent.
I love it too.
All that's wrong with you is you haven't heard me, and neither is Michael Mahia saying the word
the team
3:33.
Yeah. Well, you know what time it is? You know what time it is in New York, because we go off of the East Coast time.
Is it?
In about 14 seconds, it'll be 3:30.
3:30. Right, there you go. See?
On June 30. No.
He'll have me singing Irish ballads next.
Well, okay. So I like the way you describe that. You know, first with the frequencies or feelings, because everything's getting integrated. What is a feeling? It's a frequency. It's a frequency that's embodied, which is even more powerful. So the thing about feeling into the frequency is it's like it's tapping on your shoulder and saying, I'm not going anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never going to leave, right? These traumas are never going to leave. And that's not a bad thing. It's part of us. It's alchemized material that's been transformed. Right. And then the other thing you're talking about, as I'm listening to you, it's like this. There's two voices. There's always been two voices. In fact, there's many, many voices within us. I mean, there really is. But really, there's two dominant voices. There's this ego. OK, which at some level you've got to identify with at least the human. Now, you can look at Franco's intel, and he says the ego, and I'm not saying that's not true. In fact, I resonate with it. The ego was a program implanted to work with the inverted matrix. And although it still exists, it's not being fed, but it is being perpetuated by us. But when you go, for instance, like, because you described like the two parts, right, when you first started talking. And so I just picture like, you know, this is a big one for all of us. We get a download. We have a divine episode. Something happens. We're in cloud 99, you know, and we know, we feel our power. We see the light. I mean, there's so many ways you could describe it. And then what we call the ego, and I'm just going to call it the human. And then the human, and in its collective consciousness in the human realm, which is ego and mind and heart and body and all this stuff, goes, wow, we're smart. We're really smart. And you know what? The mood or the energy, and I know it's not just me, like what you started talking about at first too, with the whole I'm fed up. You know, I've had it with this shit. But it's like the higher self that is me telling the human self that is me in this body and says to the ego, to the human, hey, you know what? You are smart. You're very smart. And I think when we get done with this trip and we look back at our favorite part of our multidimensionality, personality, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be the human. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, tell the human, tell the ego, we are smart. We are smart. It ain't about you. It's about us. You don't have to fit for survival anymore. You can accept that you are divinity, because it is. It's part of it, you know? Yeah.
You said a couple of minutes ago there about what it is, like the trauma, the life experiences, everything that we've gone through is never going away. And when we allow what the lessons, this is my perspective, by the way, when we allow the experiences, when we allow our human to have the experiences that are put in front of us, when we access the wisdom from that, the ego doesn't get to run the show from a place of control. And that's what a lot of times has happened. And what we've been trying to do is like, you know, clear the control, stop the control or whatever, as opposed to accessing the wisdom of what it is we've been through and freeing ourselves from the ego. So you're aware of its place, you're aware of its role, which has been to pretty much try and keep us safe from ourselves. But like you said, everything that we have accessed from this, the wisdom we have accessed from this, is constantly now in our faces saying, you are divinity in skin. You've got this. You know better now, but act on it. Act on it. You know?
Yeah.
So instead
stop externalizing it.
Yeah.
Which is, I
And
think, what you were alluding to, because you set it up perfectly at the beginning. You said, I had to get rid of this person that's been in my life, and whether that's a person or an event that happened or a trauma. And you're saying you're setting it up, and I thought you were going to say something or someone or whatever, and then you said it was me.
well, that's the thing, because it is me
Mm-hmm.
experiencing me through me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I can only come to understand me via what's outside of me. But once I do understand it, I have a responsibility to me to honor that at all costs now. And that hasn't
Even if
gone.
you make, okay, even look, I believe that there is no wrong choice. You make a choice, and there is no you made a wrong choice. You just established a new place to make a new choice. So it might be, hey, I'm going to take the last choice back. I'm going to go back to where I was and make a new choice. It could be whatever, but we're not throwing people. We're not going to be able to throw people and events and whatever frequencies, whatever, however you want to describe it, under the bus anymore.
No.
We're not going to be able to throw external energy under the bus. You were talking about distraction. It's all distraction. The whole thing was built on distraction, but distraction from a human perspective is a totally different thing than distraction from the expanding higher self frequency within ourselves, or however you want to put it. They've all come to the party. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. All aspects of you are here, and they're asking what you want to do with it, because this is you experiencing the entire cosmos through you. And it's not to be even taken lightly. But we've forgotten this. And through the distractions that you speak of, what we've actually done is displaced our power, displaced our energy, our own essence, displaced it through trauma and thinking that we can't heal, or displacing it through looking into the eyes of another who we think is like the sun, moon, and stars, and thinking, I feel like I feel because of them, because of this job, because of this situation. But that's what we've been doing all along. And all they are ultimately are ingenious distractions from understanding ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. But like I said, that's not a journey taken lightly. It really isn't, because I'm telling you now, over the last 2 months, in order for me to honor me and choose me, I have said goodbye to people in my life who I did not want to say goodbye to. I mean, I fought tooth and nail to like cling on to this shit. Situations that I've outgrown, places I knew I shouldn't be. But this older version of me wanted to, like, didn't know any different. I was hardwired for this. I was like conditioned for this, but I had no excuse, because I had taken the time to understand myself. For example, like I said, in my own personal case, it's zero pointing. For whoever else is out there doing their own thing on their own journey, I don't care what it is. If you don't want to feel like you feel, find something that helps you unpack you, so that you understand you without exception, so that when you are put in the face of your ultimate bullshit, which is you looking straight at you, you can see through it and you go, no, I choose me. And I'm talking about the aspect of you that knows, I have been through the shit. I have been through X, Y, and Z here, but that's not what I came here for. I didn't come here to suffer. I didn't come here to perpetuate cycles. I didn't come here to hold you up while you fucking fall on your knees. I came here for me, but I forgot that. And so I didn't realize that I could have all of the things that were the opposite until really I stopped engaging with my own bullshit. Because I know it's like a cliche, and people say, the answers are all within. Well, they fucking are. They really are. Always. Always. And I mean, I literally, quite literally, no matter what, no matter who, no matter when, had to become unavailable to the old version of myself. Compassionately, gracefully, ruthlessly. And so I did. And so I still am. I'm by no means sitting on a little Zen cloud over here talking with.
The Zen cloud.
You know, I'm not. Nothing like my kids to pull me clean out of my heart space within 2 seconds.
Yeah, right.
You know, or the sunburn like I just did. You know, experience. There's no difference here. I could be naked right now. My skin is the same color. I got Irish sun on Sunday. I got burnt within an inch of my being. Do you think I have after sun? No, well, I didn't. But this is what I'm talking about, right? We're constantly being invited into the now moment. And most of us are kicking and screaming to try and get out, kicking and screaming to not feel. And we create our own shit shows.
Yeah.
Present moment is where the magic happens. It's the new play for me. I'm very, very like the tip of the iceberg, understanding what can actually be created from, consciously created from the now moment. Because
Right.
when we're manifesting or invoking something into our world, we're inviting it in from a very new field,
Yeah.
where there's no effort and there's no push and there's no when are we there? Are we there yet? What's happening? When's it happening? How's it happening? Which is what trauma was. Needed to be kept safe. Needed to know what's happening. I need to understand so I can trust. No. No.
Trauma created a place that didn't exist, because the only place that exists is where we're at. And these distractions. You know, the distractions. What is a distraction to the human is a clue.
Yeah.
It's a clue to the soul, and you know, the human is a soul. The soul is a human, and so our disassociation with what we actually are, which isn't just this standing over here. It's actually what I am here plus that, right? So there's this whole, you know, a stubborn soul makes a stubborn human. Think about that. What humans are going to go to the mat, and that's what's coming to me. I mean, I'm waking up this morning and like you, and there's so many things in the field, and I have this experience of my masculine and feminine literally standing side by side. This is me and me, not me and Morgan, although it is, because it's all connected, right? But it's me and me at the core. And then I wake up this morning and a sister says, "Hey, you came to me in a dream last night, and I'd like to talk to you about it." Which you hear this, right? We hear this. And but she said you were two people. You were your masculine and you were your feminine. So the point of that is there's some type of expanded carryover and connectivity to what's happening in what we have considered outside of us, or we've questioned it. Call it the higher self, the light body, whatever you want to call it. If that's happening between people, what's happening but inside of us? Because as within, without. So there is a connection being made between the higher self and, let's just say, the higher self and the human self, and all of the things that contains, because it's all self-contained. And it's both being explained to us or being figured out, very little. And then but it's not. It's happening. And I think what we're dealing with is not only making these choices like you've made in so many people, where you basically choose yourself no matter what happens. Look, we went through our whole life making choices in you know, giving too much regard to other people or society, whatever, and are letting people make choices for us, which is basically the same thing. And guess what happens? You get your head cut off, or you get your arm cut off, and you complain about it. So if we're going to get our head cut off or our arm cut off, let's make the decision ourselves. I think that's this crazy, weird, mysterious, unknown place where the magic occurs, the new womb. It's this place where you take everything with you. And this is another thing. I just want to say this. I've seen this happening a lot, more and more and more. There was a lot of talk about boundaries. There was a lot of talk about, I got to let this person go, and I got to, you know, fuck off with unconditional love, and all the different things people were saying. I got news for you. They're coming with you too. So it's real important, I think, for the way we disengage in what is the temporary field of the human experience. Like, I can't see you or hear you. But there's something happening there. And I think we need to start or we can be conscious of how we separate from our family, from our friends, from groups, from whatever we're doing, and do it in a way where there's not this line drawn. We are infinite in form, taking form. We are infinite souls taking form, the formless taking form. We're being asked to walk the talk, and part of that, how are you going to materialize oneness if we're throwing lines of distinction, of separation down? Now I know it's important, has been important in the transition, but this is the space I think that we're coming into, and it's challenging us. And most of all, and best of all, it's creating this come to Jesus meeting within ourselves, and that's what you're describing.
I love everything you just said. I'm going to struggle to remember it all because the energy of the whole thing, this is what I'm talking to you. When you operate in frequency, it's like ping, but you hit the nail on the head. There's no separating anybody or anything from you that are, people who are toxic or bad for you, or situations. They are you. They are you. And like you said, they are going to come with you. So what do you want to do with that? When I say I have cut ties with or lost things or situations or people, what I've done is I've stopped tolerating these things within myself.
Yes.
So I could repeat the exact same scenario every day for a week. But once I'm making a choice every single time that honors this version of me in this now moment, choosing me over and over, it doesn't matter what's happened, because that's what we're here for. We're here for this evolution, to evolve as a soul. It's the human and the soul dancing together, the soul saying and encouraging, and like you said, inviting, rise up within you. Remember who the fuck you are. You are divinity in skin. Yeah. And there is nothing that you cannot go through in this lifetime. But in order to do that, you need to see that it's just you here. It's just you, with you looking back at you. Like even you talk about boundaries, you talk about triggers. Like the most beautiful analogy I've ever heard, and it was Dr. Gabor Mate shared it, and he shared it in the context of like a gun with a trigger. But I of course change it up myself. I'm thinking about a hand grenade. Think about a hand grenade, right? That has a little pin on it. Somebody triggers you, they pull the pin. But unless you acknowledge the explosive material that exists within you, well, good luck enjoying this experience for playing on repeat. We have to acknowledge all of these aspects of ourselves. And yes, I mean, I'm not saying, stay in situations and circumstances that hurt or harm you. But I am saying pay attention to how it's feeling, because the intelligence that you are, the God that you are, is constantly telling you, this feels epic. Do more of this shit, Melissa. Mm-hmm. Or this is shit that we are not putting up with again. And what you're doing is you're communicating with all versions of you across all timelines, because everything is happening now. And then acknowledging, soul isn't here to suffer.
No, hell no. And yeah, well, yeah, you can go deep on that. Two things real quick, because what you're saying, you're kind of like turning things onto yourself, which is what I think I personally think that's the way it goes, and so it's like you start to see, it's not so much creating a boundary, but boundaries are created by the actions of my intentions and the intentions of my actions. That's the energy right there. And so when you start to make choices, even if they seem like what Morgan and I just did, like, even if, because this is a higher frequency, and luckily there's two of us, right, coming in. So two of those open, open-minded, open to beyond surrendering to working on it are able to help the two humans go through it. But the point is, it's the actions of the intentions that set the energetic field. So what I see happening is we're starting to choose ourselves, to thine own self be true, without concern for those things outside of us, because we're understanding this is the greatest contribution we can make. And then what's happening is you're starting to have borderless boundaries, because there is no boundaries. There is none. And so what I'm saying is everything's taken on a physicalization, and that physicalization is absolutely including now the human aspect in all of its multiple bodies, and will continue to. So when I say I'm going to teleport physically, it's not going to just be Morgan feeling my hand and other parts of my body without her seeing me. But it's the physical. And I don't think that there's a destination or a level or a finish line. I think the way it works is, let's see how far we can take it. Let's see how far we can go. And that's what you're explaining. And that's what I think many people are becoming, are basically living examples that don't have to say a word, because they're carrying an energy field of where they just chose themselves. You see a lot of women doing it. I saw a lot of women like this in Sedona, about 40 of them, I estimate. They all had the same soul. They all had the same smile. They all had the same characteristics. And that was a deep humility, a non-judgment, present. And if there's 40 of them in a gathering of 100 people, even if that proportion doesn't hold true, there's got to be a strong percentage of that energy, as evidenced mostly by women over the last few years. And that's why they lead these communities, in terms of the demographics. But it's expanding, and it's a very subtle dynamic in our transformation. In other words, it's a part that's always been there, that's not going anywhere, expanding with us, that's very gentle, that's very telepathic, that's very intuitive. And that other side of us, which has been impressed by the patriarchal and all of its programs, is the one that's coming to terms with everything. And again, do we disassociate from the patriarchal and the human experience that was dominated by the patriarchal? Do we say that's not me, or do we say that's me, but I'm going to convert it? Now it's stored knowledge, and I'll move forward. I believe we got to take everything with us.
Yeah. Again, just to kind of backtrack on what I've just heard you say, the alchemy that is accessible to us, where you're in one country and she's in another, and you can do this, is exactly that. It's accessible to each and every person. We can't access the magic within us if we're busy caught up in our bullshit story that we're really not willing to just simply put down and stop. One thing I'm understanding is very, very clearly, as I'm moving through this phase of my life, that I am not responsible for how the world chooses to receive, perceive, or process me. And I will say that very, very passionately now. The feminine and masculine aspects within myself, what I'm coming to understand is the feminine within me wants to feel safe, emotionally feel safe, to fully live what I've just said. Really, the masculine wants to compartmentalize everything, to work it all out. It wants to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and it's never going to happen because the gap is too big. It's too big between the two, unless we give ourselves the space to really sit with the frequency of what's coming up as it's coming up, and allow it to have its way. Because otherwise, you're creating from the past. You're creating from the past every time. And you are by default fucking yourself over.
Mind fuck. But
But
you
you
know
are.
what? But so okay. So like, yes, I'm with you on this. And so like a couple of examples. One is you. Because look, that's one thing about people that put themselves out there. Not that that's the right thing to do or a better thing to do. It's not. Some people do certain things. And those 40 plus women at the Soulogy Fest don't put it out there in the sense like, you know, you have a show, I have a show, whatever. But what's the value of it is, and I look at a lot of people, I can name a lot of people, some who aren't even doing stuff anymore, go through transformations. There's something about watching people bravely push forward, because that's what it is. You were nervous coming onto this show, and you've been on many times on live video.
Every time.
Yeah.
Because I'm human, and you said that earlier on. We're divinity in skin, but we're living through life vicariously as a human being.
Yeah.
And so we have to honor that. We really have to honor that.
Yes.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
The way I was thinking about this morning when I was trying to hide from the sun.
Hide from the sun. You really hurt yourself, huh? Were you
no idea,
were you sunbathing? Were you naked sunbathing?
No, I was just minding my own business in my back garden. I had a baseball cap on, thank Jesus, or else my face would be like this. I was having a video conversation with Amanda Lawrence. I assumed I was talking for maybe half an hour. Apparently it was 3 hours. Boom, gone. And here I am. But what I was going to say was, like, even something as tiny as that, right? Sunburn pulls you into the present moment. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? What I was thinking yesterday while I was out there, what I was going to say was looking back, it was like one phase of awakening or when the shit hits the fan. There's all sorts of stuff going on in our lives, and we know it's shit, but we just don't know where to start to fix it. We don't know how to begin. And when we do, we come across life experiences that allow us to turn in and then fine tune or unhook or root out anything dormant within us that prevents us from really having to relive our trauma, right? And then this is like another level, and I'm kind of experiencing it because I'm trying. I emphasize the word trying. I do not, for the record, have this mastered on any level, but I'm trying to be as present as I can, because in the present, I'm getting to experience the world through a whole other place. And in the present, what I'm finding then is instant manifestation of all of the things that we know we deserve and want to bring into our lives. Now I'm talking about coming in at a colossal rate. That's not even funny. I described it earlier as like all the kids are in Hogwarts and the teachers are gone and they've got access to all of the magic, and boom, boom, boom. It's like a free-for-all. And I'm there going, oh my God, this world is over here. This world is over here, while everybody else is over there worrying about the being caught between the god-awful place of being caught between its duality. It's pure duality. It's trying to honor yourself, but like I said, being wired to know the world no different. And it's not okay. It's not okay. And that's why I kind of came back out of my little wee cave, was to just speak to the fact that you don't have to stay in it. And
I agree with that.
The only way
especially now. Yeah. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about love and fear. And of course, everything that represents, everything that falls under that. 'Cause that's where either you can say life and death or love and fear. And so much of the emphasis, first of all, the vast majority of the emphasis in terms of frequency and experience in this life has been on the fear side of that. Okay. It's been self-deprecation, self-sabotage, self-judgment, and all the bullshit that goes with it, because that's what the inverted matrix, whatever, fed, right? And the ego perpetuated. But now, to me, and I've been feeling this for a long, long time, I've been saying it for a long time, I haven't been able to do it consistently. I've had my moments like everybody, and that is to create, is to operate from the other side of that thing, right? It's like a teeter-totter. So we've been over here on the fear side, jumping up and down. And why can't we come over here on the other side? Let's just call it love, not the human love, but the love, representing this half of this reality, this yin yang. And so on that side of it, it's more of an it's not a defense, it's an offense. And on the defense side, there's shadow working and zero pointing, and yes, everything has an ing, and it will not end. If you get to a place and you're operating on the love side about what I'm about to propose, and you think you got it, it'll come right back. You know that. Okay, so this is what you were talking about earlier. But operating on the love side, so how does that operate? Look, love is free, period. Love is free. You cannot hoard love. That's impossible, because you are fucking love. How the fuck are you going to do that, right? So look at our behavioral patterns: control, boundaries. And I'm sorry, people, but I'm not going to advocate boundaries anymore, because they no longer serve us anymore, because they're not real. That's the whole point. You put up a boundary. Yeah, I understand. Choose yourself, because your energy field will form its own boundary. And it'll be clearer when somebody infringes upon that, and easier for you to be direct, and boom, it's done. But the bottom line is love is free. Okay. And I'll just give you an example, like with Morgan and I. Now, obviously people can see the connection that we have. Okay. And obviously we see it. Now we get this download, we get all this information. We're living in a dimensional situation or experience that we're sharing together. We've chosen to share together, and we go through 2.5 weeks of solitude, and we live in the same house for the humans to integrate. And then it goes on, and we've worked through so many things. Most of it's been done without words, and it's amazing, but it's every step of the way is felt. Now, the reason I'm going into this detail, because we for so long have broken everything down just to our human eyes. So as a man, I hear this, 2.5 weeks go by, and she comes to sit and talk to me, and she says, I'm ready to talk now. I'm like, good, let's do it. She said, you know what I'm going to say? I said, absolutely. Okay. And she says, really? And I said, yeah, let's get to it. Okay. Why? Because at the core, first of all, intuitively, I knew maybe even before she did. Okay. But my point is, when you put it in front of the human being, and the human being is as a responsible co-creator, because everything is just a representation of everything. She is in my universe. My universe can be anything external, right? Is everything external. But the bottom line is, to the human, it went, do you love her? Do you love yourself? Do you believe in love? Are you love? What do you do with love? You let it go. Now, that sounds, if you look at just the superficial, that looks and sounds, and we knew that would be perceived by people, but that wasn't our concern as we try to emulate our own individual expansion and evolution. Bottom line is, that's the magic. The magic is when you can let your kid have their own rhythms in life, and you don't force anything on it. If your partner has to go home, then you support that. That's love, right? We look at each other and we say, well, it might be 2 years, it might be 5 years, but what has changed? What has really changed? We can sit in front of each other like you and I right now. Nothing has to be said, and you can feel the energy. And it's the expansion of walking the talk. And so this is an example because people know us, but it's going on with us every single day, all of us.
Yeah.
And this is part of what you're describing. You you transformed a part of you that you weren't recognizing because in front of it, you had people, places, and things. And so you start out this show and you say, I got rid of something in my life. I got rid of someone or something in my life, or plural. And what happened? On the other side of that, when you remove that veil, those veils, was standing Melissa.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. And I think that's what's happening. And what is that? That's love.
Yeah.
You had to release in love these things, whether you construed them correctly or not. But you had to release them in love. And now that's stored information within your own field that's your Akashic.
Yeah. I love everything you said. By simplifying it into two fields, love and fear. Okay, two very different frequencies. You can feel them the second you even say them. And you can feel in a heartbeat how many experiences stack up in the direction of fear. We've lived our life from that place. To the point where we've endured unspeakable suffering. To come in from the avenue of love is the uncharted. It's the unspoken. It can feel, let me tell you, it can feel vulnerable and raw and scary, but it can feel really exciting. It's an invitation to really be here now in that moment. And like you said, do you remember asking yourselves, do you remember that you are loved? Do you remember that you are loved? Do you remember, do you know how to hold this frequency within you, because this is you? And it's game-changing shit if we can really let go. Like you said, this is happening. This isn't just happening in your world with that description. It's not just happening in my world with this. You can take this tiny little conversation and belt it out into the cosmos, into everything that's going on in the world right now. What you are doing in every now moment, what you are saying, what you are experiencing, what you are living and breathing, is that honoring you? Is that honoring you? Is that taking you closer to remembering the God within yourself? Or is it taking you further away from? And to be very clear, the gratitude that I have for the people who held up the greatest mirrors to me, I don't even have words to describe, because that wasn't an easy feat either. And when I chose to really say yes to me, it can feel terrifying, and it can feel like everything that fear told you was true, but it's not. It's not, because you can't lose anything. Nobody is ever gone. Nothing is ever gone. It becomes memories or wisdom or oh my God, everything becomes a part of you. But as you move through and keep moving forward, you're expanding and evolving and tapping into the world through the lens of the healed aspects within you, where you have chosen love, whatever that looks like. To one person, it might think that one person might choose to see what you are doing or have done as you being just a completely selfish bastard. I don't know. What I'm understanding is, when you choose love, you can't get it wrong, and things will unfold exactly the way they're meant to, because you've no fucking choice. You never had. But fear told you you had. Fear told you you had. Fear told you you had to conform. Fear told you you had to comply. Fear told you if you opened your mouth and spoke your truth, the people who love you will leave. You won't be loved. You won't be accepted. You won't be wanted. Well, I'm honestly here to say at this stage, fuck you, fear. I choose me. And whatever I lose as a consequence, I understand I've not lost at all. It's amazing and mind-blowing all at the same time. I don't even know how I manage to explain that.
That was good. But what is, I don't know. I mean, to me, everything's taken on a different perspective. And it doesn't matter what the hell you know or think you know or what you think you achieved or did achieve yesterday.
Yeah.
Everything's changing so rapidly that if you or me or anyone clings on to anything, because again, what is love? Love is let it free. Look at something like copyrights, trademarks. All right. That's not going to stand. Now, this is just one example in our existence. You don't own anything. I don't give a shit who you are. Albert Einstein, Tesla, Todd, Melissa. I don't care. If you think you own something and it's yours, then it's going to keep coming back in many, many different ways. We are oneness in the flesh. You want to talk about embodiment? Walk the talk. Love is free. The energy that Tesla was talking about is us. It's the human hybrid soul in this realm. It's the soul. It's soul power, right? And it's operating it has a different operating system. It is in place, and it's going to expand its presence in what's produced, what's on the screen, what's in our experience, the more we engage it. And it's just not that easy to explain real time. I don't think we can. But what we can do is keep sharing how's it feel, what's going on, what's the difference, because we know one thing: the same thing over and over is going to produce the same thing.
Yes.
Now we've elevated, yet we still can do this. And I think the more that we step into this unknown space, I call it the holy darkness. It's the mother's womb. It's 0 point. It's 0 point. There is nothing. There's not one polarity, not one, not love and fear, not life and death, not masculine and feminine. There's not one that we can take with us. So what's the delay? Like we've spent all these years with this way out. Well, I'm only human. Or now you're, say, years into the ascension or your evolution, and it's, well, that's the human part of me. Well, the human being is not a fucking excuse. It is a divine pot of gold that nobody's mined before. And this is what we agreed to, volunteered to, and were chosen to do, because I can promise you, no soul has come here that hasn't earned it, because the only way to get through it is to have earned it. And even then, you've got people and souls that will leave early, and we've probably all done it in some of our incarnations, but I just see this whole, for me anyway, and I see it happening. And I saw it these last few months in 2021 where people were coming out and standing their ground. Now, did it look like projection? Of course it did. We're perfect imperfections. But you saw the power of people saying, I'm going to do this. And again, it's not the action, it's the intention. That's the imagination. That's the creator, right? It's the intention. And so we come into more alignment. So those intentions are pure, and it's getting better and better and better. But the bullshit from the core of my existence outward is most brought into alignment from the core first, in those places closest to me as I step outward and create outward into a collective experience with everybody else. But that's everything. It's not just my relationships and the choices I've made to have the same loops appear and the same people appear over and over and over until I finally said, bullshit, it's me. It's not just that. It's the way that we observe, process, and spit back out with our thoughts those things which we see out there. And again, it comes back down to we're going to have to integrate everything. You don't pick a subject. The Illuminati. Let's do the big hot one, child trafficking. You want to do some work? You want to do some grid work like all those ladies I met, like all these people that travel around the world with no web page or nothing doing grid work? Take that on. Take any polarity on, because don't think for 1 second that you don't have the influence to alter the collective experience, because you do.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's how the world changes. That's literally how the world transforms. Everybody takes ownership of themselves. And as you go back out and step into the world, we remember that to navigate this water, that people love from their level of self-love. Okay. I wrote this down earlier on, actually. Communicate to their level of self-awareness and behave to their level of healed trauma. And none of it has anything to do with you. That's leaving them in their lane.
Yeah.
But it works two ways. So if I'm loving to my level of self-love, I have to get behind that. I have to get behind it with my actions, like you just talked to. Communicate to the level of self-awareness. So if I'm already aware that I have worked through a situation and I can see, you're talking about we have the experience, we elevate, we integrate, elevate, integrate. But if it plateaus, and I have the self-awareness, I have the intel myself, I have the acquired wisdom based on my experience, and I do fuck all about that, that's on me. And then
right.
behave to their level of healed trauma. You're talking about like accountability and personal accountability and responsibility. So like it really does work two ways. And the point I'm trying to get to here is, I'm always saying it, you stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And you work, you honor you. And you can have all of the mirrors show up in all of the shittiest ways or the best ways outside of you. But if you don't remember that this is you experiencing you, then you quite simply perpetuate this cycle of just self-fuckery, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. I feel people are done. Like there's a groundswell of done. 2 million people, or 1 million to 2 million, whatever the hell. Hell, if it was 500,000, if it was 100,000 people gathered in Hyde Park. The point is, the projector, and I think this was about 5-6 weeks ago, because I remember seeing it, put out these massive constrictions, lockdowns, and the people just got up the next day and just went and did what the fuck they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now, if that's happening there, it's happening everywhere, and it's first happening with the individual choices we make. We're doing this, and not only are we making the choices and choosing ourselves, but we're doing it in a way where we have as much equilibrium with what we used to call detachment. It's really not, because there's never a disconnect. And this is quantum, and there is an entanglement aspect quantum-wise. I mean, we know this. So it's great that we're taking these steps, and that we've taken these steps into self-empowerment. It's another thing to when I started it, I'm like, fuck that shit, you're out. I hope don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, right? Kind of thing. But then you go in more, and you can do this etherically, and you might do this if it presents itself person to person or event or job or whatever the case is. But now we're starting to recognize that it's like a wake on a boat, right? It's not just the point of the boat, it's what's left, in linear definition behind. But it's still there, and those ripples are still going, and it's important. And we also know that we have the ability at any point, when we find a higher alignment, that's correcting present, past, future, the whole 9 yards, as well as generations and so on. But I see this happening now, and I see more empathy from a point of strength in terms of, hey, I can see your program. I can see your program, Melissa. And you probably said the same thing about Todd or someone else. I can see their program. Well, ding, 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 ding. All right.
Dominance. Yeah.
It's what you were saying. That's great. Thank you for that information. I'm leaving it. I'm taking the information with me, but I'm leaving my impression there. I'm not going, oh, they're stupid. Oh, they're asleep. I'm moving forward because I know there's something for me. And that's a full-time job. I don't know how people can be in other people's business.
You know, I'm going to say something. This is very much my own personal opinion. If it resonates, cool. If it doesn't, cool. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I just read this comment. Keep going. You have to read it. She's crazy.
Nice.
She's
Can't
funny.
unsee that either.
Say this though. This is important. I can feel it.
What I wanted to say was, as we, irrespective of where you are on your path right now, okay? Irrespective of who you are, where you are on your path right now, the external world to everyone is on fire, okay? And it's like it's been, we're like the noose has been tightened, for the want of a better word, on humanity. And no matter where you are on your journey, no matter how you feel about anything, I don't care about how you feel about vaccines, COVID. I don't care about how you feel about anything, right? Every time a person stands in their sovereignty in any now moment, no matter what that looks like, no matter what it is, what you're doing is, okay, hang on, bear with me.
You're good.
For us, for the people who anybody who's watching this right now, even, right, have unpacked their stuff and have gone back to, are on a journey back to their core, back to their heart, back to remembering the divinity within them. Every time you choose in this now moment to act in the direction of love, based on the wisdom that you have acquired, and trusting that everything is working out for you. It's working out the way it's supposed to. Everything is working out the way it's supposed to. To anybody who's asleep or unaware or whatever, you literally light a beacon. And when other people see you simply choosing you in a now moment, by default, no matter what they have unpacked or even unacknowledged in themselves, it's actually putting a floodlight, not a spotlight now. And this is why it feels quite intense out there. It's putting a floodlight on the entirety of that person's world, where it says, if he can do that, if she can do that, then so can I. And I can't hide from what I have been hiding behind anymore. And I think this is how we quite literally turn the tide on what's happening right now, because it does feel more intense. It's definitely getting more intense over here. It's getting more intense everywhere. Restrictions, implementations, things that are coming in. People are so exhausted. They're so exhausted on every level from what the whole pandemic has opened up for them in their world. But I've got news for fucking everybody. This was this shit was here before any pandemic. It was just dormant within us. Now the whole entire pitch is full of floodlights, and there is nowhere to hide from you right now. Nowhere to hide from yourself right now. And that's a gift. Yeah, it's a gift. It's not a curse. It's not, why is this happening to me? It's like, holy shit balls, this is happening for me. Now what am I going to do with it? And like I said, with the awareness and understanding that we have about ourselves, what are you going to do? Like, I'm not advocating anything in any direction, but just give an example of what I'm talking about, right? I personally choose, pretty much, I don't wear masks.
Yeah.
I get the most shadiest looks, and I get the most in all looks. I don't care either way. The reason I don't wear them is because of the amount of physical overwhelm I'd actually experience. I can't breathe. And I did wear them, and I complied, and I conformed. And then one day I went, I'm not doing any of this anymore. If I get stopped, I'll explain to a person. And if I don't, I'll just carry on. And now I just pretty much walk through the world like a ghost. My boys are watching. My children are watching. And I want them to understand. Now, keeping in mind, we're coming from they've two very different parents, right? They've got two very different parents. with two very, very opposing views, but who are united in giving these people, these children, their choice.
Right.
By simply honoring themselves. So my ex-husband has been vaccinated. I currently am not. I don't have any plans to. It's not for me. He looks at me as if to say, why are you, would you not just, do X, Y, and Z as not to create any noise or not to stand out. And I'm like simply standing in my sovereignty going, I choose this. He chooses this. The important thing to me is that our children understand that they have a sovereign choice. And how do they understand it? Well, they see, they learn what they live. We all have learned what we've lived. I guess what I'm trying to say here is there's a generation coming behind us. And we're out here now working our arses off to heal the unhealed aspects within us.
Mm-hmm.
And they're watching and they're paying attention to every move we make right now. So they can see with their little transparent eyes any place any of us are not honoring ourselves. So what I'm trying to say is, no matter what, no matter who, no matter when, no matter where, the only thing you actually have a choice over is how you show up in the world for you.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Do it responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that you have that choice over yourself. That's it.
Bull in a China shop. Bull in a China shop.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what? I've been saying for years, ever since I came out 10 years ago, tear the Band-Aid off. Let's do it. And I think that's what's happening. A lot of people come on the show that have forecasted things. Not that they're always accurate, but for the most part, there's been kind of a collective intel people share. You see people writing the same thing, and that is we've accelerated the timeline many, many times. And I believe we did again in March. But let's rip the Band-Aid off. I wish that, and I know it's going to happen, the first part of what I'm going to say, which is everything is revealed. If you look at mainstream media, and if you really look, and you don't have to look very hard anymore, you can see that our brothers, sisters, souls that are playing that role of what's being suggested for us to engage and therefore perpetuate an illusion of duality and polarity and hierarchy and all that. They're making it obvious. They're like laughing at us, like a shaman would. How much are you going to take? So, from an energetic standpoint, using it strictly as a metaphor, I wish whatever would come out and say, hey, we're the one pulling all the strings here. Either get a vaccine or be killed. I'd say, fucking A, how are you going to do it? Right? I mean, this is a extreme metaphoric example, and I don't mean to say that's what's going to happen, but what I'm trying to say, by God, let's do it. Let's do it. People talk about two Earths. I don't know how this shit's going down, but I know one thing. I'm not living in this fucking place anymore, but I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to transform it from here. Right. And this is what I was talking about, that little balance of love and fear. We've been operating over here because that's all we had. Traumas and programs and loops and patterns and behaviors and addictions and all that stuff is over here. And we had to explore all that. We had to get that information, understand it. Oh, this is what I thought it was, but this is what it really is, which is leading me to, well, this is who I thought I was, but now this is who I really am. So now we're operating in this other side of it, which to me, you can't, creation can only occur. I'm talking about pure creation. I'm talking about new frequencies, new births, new Earths, new lives, new universes from that space that we might call the 0 point field of the soul highway. What does that require? It's the same thing every time. And it doesn't happen once. It happened. It's gonna happen today for me, as an example, 6, 8, 10, 12 times. It's going to happen when somebody sends me a message for the 4th time in 10 hours wanting to come on the show. It's going to be me going, let me address this in a balanced state. This is my way of intending to contribute to the 0 point field. Let me not judge this person. Let me understand why I'm feeling pissed off. Does it have anything to do with this person? Or is this person representing a pattern of something that it keeps occurring to me? This entitlement or this infringement. And again, this is my perspective, and I'm grasping at words. But the whole point is to give everything its due. And in consideration and in action and in retrospect. Nothing is causing anything. Nothing has traumatized me. Nothing back there is separate in, well, let's say human terms, my failures or successes, right? It's all me. Every bit of it's me. You know, there's a great saying, and I love it, is that, you know, and this is saying this to myself, I will not be judged by the number of times I fail, but by the number of times I succeed, which is in direct proportion to the number of times I try. That's the thing about the human spirit. All the bullshit, even if you look at the history books, and we know they've been altered, but what is obvious always, even if they're painted as the bad guy, there's always this part of the human that never stops. You get back up, you knock me down, I'm getting back up. Revolution, revolution. I mean, it's over and over and over in our history. We're not rebels. And I'm totally convinced that the vast majority of this world has the same intention and the same soul and the same heart. I'm talking about even in this realm, even with their level of consciousness. And we're coming out. And it's coming out fast, and it's coming out through the mostly through these personal experiences and interactions throughout our day and the choices that we make. We think it's not world class. We think it's not going to affect the universe, but I'm telling you, those are more important than me going out and starting a show and going, hey, we're going to have a show and we're going to talk about sovereignty. You know what I mean? Something that's for lack of a better word, marketed or commercialized or broadcast. It's the little choices that we make every single day that are building this new grid. Because, you know, as Morgan always says, we are the grid.
I'll tell you what I know, and that's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? I know nothing. And I heard everything you said. From my own perspective, I know what happens when I try to go down a rabbit hole of anything. The places I go to, the thoughts I experience, the scenarios I preempt, and in essence create. Yesterday taught me more than ever just to be here now. And it taught me in the most it taught me in the most unique way. I spent 6 hours sitting in the one position, getting a tattoo.
Really?
Where I had no choice. Now, I didn't know it was going to be 6 hours, but my point is, it's not even about the tattoo. It's not even about anything. Because of the scenario I was in, it was presence, pure presence was absolutely demanded of me, right? If I went to think about anything else, the second the tattoo needle touched my body, it was like, right? And for 6 hours, I had that straight.
Wow.
The only thing I know right now, and to kind of wrap up on, the only thing I know is to be here now. The only thing I know is that the only place that I have any sort of anything with, any control. Control is not even the right word, is right now. It's right now. And right now, this second, everything's okay. Right now, this second, as I speak to you, it's just me and you. You are my world and I am yours. For this now moment, everything is okay. And that's what 6 hours in a tattoo studio.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think I can think of three examples. One would be like when I was a kid playing sports, and there was endurance things going on. Like we had to run 2 miles or something, and this level that you hit, where you burn past the pain, to in that case win. Which I would do sometimes, but what I noticed was the ability to push through the pain, and the way you did that wasn't or the way I did it wasn't by thinking about something else. It was actually being, that's the way I would call it, being present, right? And it happens. I went to the dentist the other day before I went to Sedona. Same thing. I just stayed with it. I didn't wait, like, when a kid's going to get a shot and go, oh, like, I didn't do that. I just relaxed. And I had another example that was the strongest example. The best example for me was, and again, this is a physical representation. So it's an energy, it's a feeling that you're talking about. And it was when I was homeless and walking the street every day, and when I went to the county jail for 34 days. So in the middle of this, the first like 7, 8, 9 months, all of a sudden I get picked up. I'm in the county jail. I got no money. So you know how that's the system over here works. So I'm in the county jail, high risk unit. And I have all these things going on at the human level, like loss and, just all the traumas and stuff that were happening. And I remember that's how I did it. I remember staying in my own space and being present and allowing those multiple myriad of things that were occurring, loss of house, loss of family, loss of whatever, just allow them to be there. But my almost like you're putting it on the back burner in a way. You're not, but because my focus had to be with me at all times, like with me. Like I don't have time, like even on the streets, like 3 o'clock in the morning, walking through the hood many times, coming out of the club and thinking, I don't have time to be thinking about all that stuff. I need to be alert, not because there's a threat, but I need to know what's happening at all times. And if you look at that, what you're talking about, getting a tattoo.
On top of sunburn. As in, I didn't get tattooed on top of the sunburn, but I'm sunburnt as fuck. Excuse my language.
I hope you did. I hope you covered your tat when you got in the sun.
I did. No, I didn't. I got the sunburn first, and that was on Sunday, and then Tuesday I went for it. So this is what I'm saying to you. I'm being really shown what it means to like really be here now. Like really. So I've got like dodgy arms and here and my shoulders, my tattoos on my back. So it went on to an unsunburnt area. But I'm 50 shades of fucked. Excuse my language again. I'm sitting on the edge of this bench for 6 hours straight. I hit that place that you're talking about 3/4 of the way through. My arse is completely numb. I want to kill somebody. The pain. I'm like, oh my Jesus Christ! I have not endured anything like this since the compounded births of my children, and I had sections. And the next thing then is just to top me over the edge. Fucking news talk comes on the radio and they're banging on about COVID and the world, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna just snap. And I had to just really pull everything that I had into that now moment and just breathe and just be with whatever was there, which was just pain. And it took me to a place like when I moved through that kind of into the home stretch of it, I realized that's what we've been doing our entire lives as humanity. We have been literally running from the pain. We've never wanted to sit with it because of that extremity between love and fear. We've never wanted to just sit in the frequency of what it was that we were always trying to show ourselves. And to loop it all the way back around, this is why I actually wanted to come on here and talk with you. It was to offer or invite anybody who's struggling right now to just be as still as they possibly can. If they want to run from it, if they want to hide from it, if they want to anesthetize themselves, you're not wrong for wanting to do any of these things, but compassionately try and just be here now. Take a breath, be with whatever it is trying to have its way with you. Just stand back like this and go, just fucking do it. Because there's magic on the opposite side of that. And that's just, it's just freedom to remember, to just be with the love that you are. And from there, you by default nearly empower yourself to but allow the universe to unfold right in front of you the way it's going to anyway.
Yeah.
The way it's going to anyway. So I don't know.
No, it's good. And that's it. And this is a great example. I mean, think about it. There are people out there, because I think about how quick this shit works, because we are constantly, it's action reaction. And we have these patterns, and they run deep. I mean, little bitty things. If you think of a program is your body, there's a bunch of little pinky programs within that program. They're just so subtle. They're just, I think it's very effective. Like, for instance, a zero pointing thing that you and Morgan do, because there's a lot of big dominoes that you can start knocking down. And it gives you some momentum, and you've seen it because you've worked with people, and they get all excited when they first start to break open these barriers. And there's an obvious maintenance to it. But let's not forget the impact of these programs. For instance, there's a group of people over here that got vaccines. I'll bet you that the same percentage of people over there, and I bet you it's 85, 90, they don't give a shit what anyone else does. They're not going to get hung up on judgment and look at you like some of the people look at you when you're walking down the road, or the guy at the pharmacy that one day with me and Morgan. And then you over here, you got people they're not going to get vaccines. And I guarantee it's the same number. There's still going to be 15% of the people over here and 15% of the people here that are going to be out for blood, that are going to be engaged in the egoic, that are going to be perpetuating 3D separation and division. Everybody, it's just like Rodney King said, can't everybody get along? You know, I mean, so that reality and that truth do not get any news coverage, right? They don't. But it doesn't diminish what is. And it's there. It's like there's a bunch of ripe fruit on a tree or an orchard of trees, orchard. And we can just pluck them. You know, this is the new golden fruit. And you know, otherwise we're eating the ones off the ground that we've always been eating, which is not even a bad thing. It's just, this is what's available. This is our potential. And this is what we do. The universe doesn't stay stagnant. So I really feel like these issues that are coming out, okay, I feel like there's a convergence. At least I know within my own field that with what I understand about myself in terms of what my physical contributions and intentions are, there is a convergence of everything. There's a convergence of the individual experience and the collective mirror of that experience. I know that there's certain things that need to be discussed on, for instance, on this show. Morgan actually said this to me yesterday, and I had already been thinking about it. So here we go with the telepathy. And that is to address some things that are in our face. You don't have to take a side to talk about something. You can have a conversation where no one has to be right. Yeah. We're just putting our cards on the table, because I can promise you there's two common things that we're going to find. One, I am soul. And two, I'm a human. And I'm going through the same stuff you have.
Mhm.
It just looks different. So those
Yeah.
are strong polarity, you know, pillars of polarity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
the most prominent, and that's really what
Right
you were
now.
talking about.
Yeah.
That was really what you were talking about from the beginning about the human self and the higher self.
I just know that, like, even in my own family unit, my own immediate family unit, um, the more I've got, for the record, I've got family who have been vaccinated, family who are point blank won't be happening, and a few in the middle. And what I understand just from my own experience is the more present I am with myself, the more I understand me, the more I'm able to observe them, not judge them, not put put their choices in a box according to how I see the world, because nobody can see the world through my lens except me. I can't see it through theirs, and I stopped trying. I stopped trying to understand anyone outside of me, just me. So this is to kind of loop back into what you're saying. The polarity is so in your face right now. The overlays are what's causing the confusion. One program that runs into another, and the way to stop the train from completely derailing altogether, because we know there's no one driving that, is to simply just be here now. It just creates space. It creates space in the chaos to calm the storms around you. And I don't know. I just know personally, I don't want to go back to the way it was. Thanks very much.
No, right.
So I'm going to take the work that I've done and I'm going to build on that. I know who I am not, based on the time I've invested in myself and understanding myself. And all I want to do is concentrate now on the unfolding of who I am and will be.
Mm-hmm.
And not get caught down any of the rabbit holes of what anybody else is doing. I don't know how else to say that.
Well, you're doing a great job of saying it, and you're sending the energy. I told you, you look fantastic. I don't know. There's it's funny because if you go to if you go to the Soulogy group, and I think you look at the about, whatever that was written was like, I got Soulogy on Morgan's birthday, 2012, and I think it was 2 days later I started the group, and I wrote the description. And it's weird, just like all this other stuff. You know how we pull stuff in, and then you don't really realize what you've done. So anyway, if you read it, it's never been changed. And it says whatever, Soulogy is an energy, and da 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 da. But one of the things it says, like, these are the pillars, and one of them is spiritual activism. Now, when I first came out, like a lot of us, we were awakened by some of the disclosure and conspiracy things, right? So a lot of times people will come out and a couple of things would happen. Oh my God, I just got a download. I'm an eternal soul with a galactic heritage, and I need to tell my family, and they don't believe me, and they think I'm crazy. And the other thing is, hey, do you know what's going on in the world? Do you know what 9/11 was about? Do you know what this is about? And that kind of goes away. But I see it coming back. I see it coming back in a more balanced, aligned way, not just for myself, but for this world. And obviously, it's rooted in the individual journeys and presence of each one of us. That goes without saying. Whether we get press or we don't get press, this is the highest level of activations. This openness and sharing and being open, and not having to be right. That's not the point. That's not a real conversation. It brings an imbalance, and it just becomes a dialogue. It just becomes what? But anyway, my point is, I feel that what's happening by our ingenious divine orchestration is we're creating these opportunities. So I look at Australia, where Morgan is, and I'm watching it, and I'm not doing it to be programmed. I'm just looking at how's this going. So it's pretty obvious where this is headed. Now you look at England, and you see 2 million people gather in Hyde Park. Now you've got another extreme over here in another country where there's more control. a very subtle control that took over an entire country that was seen as very progressive, very liberal. But whoa, it's not always what you see. Things are always the opposite of what you see, right? I think there's going to be a huge groundswell. And I think the women are going to lead it. Not just light worker circles. I think they're going to say, I've had enough of this shit, you know? And let's face it, you go into any household, I'm talking stereotypical, typical. You go into any household, any connection, any relationship, when the feminine makes its mind up, it's done. There ain't nothing you can do. And there's that great story in Iceland years ago when the women, the ones that worked and the ones that didn't, by traditional sense, that were domestic engineers, they all said, we're not going to work today. We're not cooking. We're not cleaning. We're not going to our jobs until we have equal pay, equal rights. This is the power that is anchoring and expanding. And it's a very quiet, subtle, confident, sure, deliberate, steady ascension.
Yeah.
And it's starting to reach the point where the wave is cresting. And I think we're going to see more alignment in some of the platforms that I'm talking about. Some of the topics, there's going to start to be the consideration of the I am soul versus the energetics behind the physical actions or programs that are being intended upon us.
Yeah. And to add to what you just said, how this occurs, to reiterate every single thing we've just spoke to, stand in your goddamn power. Remember who you are and choose you. Choose you, choose you, choose you. That's it.
That's right.
That's it. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
Every single person honors themselves every single time. That's how the entire world changes.
Right on. May I offer you my blessing and that you may find your universal balls.
So many things I can't unsee tonight. So many things.
Well, it's true, man. It's time to shift or get off the pot.
That's it. Speak your truth. Speak your truth. Even if your voice shakes. Like, there's nothing wrong with, for example, me and you coming on here, having two completely different opinions and honoring the other person's and still talk about the things that nobody is talking about, say the things nobody is saying. But you know what? Other than this context here, if each person does that in their own personal world, in their own inner world, then their own outer world, and then all of those outer worlds merge as one, like the dominoes. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important, going back to that. And of course, I know firsthand because I've been with Morgan and you came on as a practitioner for Zero Point. A lot of times people ask me, I'm like, don't ask me, go to the website, because I was introduced to it and you know this about yourself. And I know this about many people, and you do too, the ones that came knocked on your door. And that is, in order to expand with any level of momentum and sustainability, you gotta face the shit. And the shit starts with the most prominent aspects of your life. And that's not even considering ancestral stuff. We're just talking about this life. So, the basic stuff to be brought before you in the brutal honesty of the soul through your own efforts, where nobody's going to, rub a crystal ball and, bring you to alignment or healing, or certainly not with any permanent basis. This is a have to. This is a have to. I mean, you're not going to miss a step on the soul highway. And again, going back to what we talked about a lot, where we're not leaving anything. No. We're not leaving anything. It's stored knowledge. It's when we take on a different perspective because of our expansion, it becomes an asset. It's no longer a liability, and it's now a part of us and not separate from us, which makes us more whole. But what I'm trying to say is these mother, father, spouse, traumatic event, these main things are where we start. and the momentum that's developed from facing those things we were unconscious of or didn't want to look at, regardless of what it is. It doesn't matter if it's an addiction or a person or a traumatic event or even a victory that you can't let go of. I've met many people from my past that are still living on the laurels of the shit they did when they were in their late teens because they were the captain of the football team. Now, I'm not taking a stab at anybody because I've got a program like that running too. I'm just not aware of it. But the point is, you know, like you said at the beginning, you know, it's all me, and it's time to cut the shit. So if I wake up feeling a little bit, you know, excited or wild, or you woke up this morning and or Jen's sitting on the crown doing her thing, it's to be held to us, not others. That's my point. And that's what I got from you today is like, you're holding yourself, and I don't even want to use the word accountable. It's not even you're holding yourself, because it sounds like an effort or a drudgery. I am a responsible co-creator. I am walking the talk. I am a conscious collaborator, right? Versus like, oh, it's a discipline to live this way. You know, it's not.
I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change one single thing that has happened prior to this conversation in my entire life. And for me, what zero pointing has done has given me something that I can translate my experiences via. So that in this moment and from here on moving forward, if I have anything come up inside of me that causes any sort of discord, it's like I can tap into the memory bank of me, access the intel or information, and actually do it the opposite way around. It's given me a tool to choose love instead of fear. That's it. One of the most powerful things ever, the most dangerous things ever. Freedom from myself, freedom from my story, freedom from my past, freedom from my history, freedom from who the fuck I was yesterday, because who I was today, or who I am today, is not even who I was yesterday. And the freedom to keep evolving, to keep growing, to keep expanding. Because I understand now, it's like watching a movie. When you watch a movie and you have the aha moments in the movie, it doesn't make what's happening in the movie right or wrong. It means you understand the story or the way it all unfolds better.
Yeah.
Find something, anything. Like I said, for me, it's zero pointing. But if you can find something that helps you to understand you better, it means you can actually go and live the life that you came here to live, which is one that's love-based, not fear-based. Your entire world, the trajectory of your world completely changes. It completely pivots. Completely.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's another thing too. And you're a practitioner and you've been one for a long time. We've moved out of everything's changed, and in many cases it doesn't even look close to what it was. And one of those things would be how sessions were run. You know, back in the day, you go to the doctor, the physician, the metaphysician, or whatever. Here's my problem, fix me. And it doesn't work that way. And it actually never did.
No, never.
Now we've gone into, of the last couple of years, this thing about self-empowerment, and I could go on and on about this and some examples. But the bottom line is that it's the things that we don't want to talk about and we don't want to consider. Some of these things we slightly know, some of these things we absolutely know and say, I'm not going there. And some of these things we don't know at all. But this is, I think of, honestly, the frequency or the energy of a process like zero point. And it's like a best friend. Because a best friend is not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you the truth. And who's the better best friend than me? It reminds me a lot of the spirit walk the first 2 years when I woke up. It's the same type of thing energetically. It's actually a lot more efficient, but that's just the way things went, and there's not a linear aspect. So But what I understood was in the process of what the 12 steps, it's the only thing I liked about it, was step 4, which is I'm going to take a fearless moral inventory. Fearless moral inventory of myself. Oh, well, my ex-spouse, she's a bitch. Really? Well, what the fuck are you, Todd? Oh, well, I did this and I did that, and all I was a hard dick and a mule. I was a good man. Yes, that's true, but she was a good woman. And she did things that maybe weren't in alignment with you, and you did too. And you were an asshole sometimes. And you were, so there's this whole thing that goes on, and you start to untangle from the entanglement that we've created based on our shadows and our handicaps. And then you start to find the real entanglement, the quantum entanglement. And man, I tell you what, and God bless both my ex-wives, I've brought them up many, many, many times, almost daily, and other people, because I don't know what I'm doing exactly. But I know one thing: until I see that energy outside of myself as me and take responsibility for what it looks like, I got work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and this loops back into what we said earlier on about talking about the unspoken, the things we have normalized in our worlds, the things we've accepted as absolutely normal and natural. That was one of the biggest things that, biggest shock, not shock, but eye-opening things in my world was in my journey of understanding myself. The things I accepted as normal were absolutely abnormal, but were always divinely timed at the time. I remember I've had a conversation recently about with a guy that I had a very turbulent chapter with in my life, and we were just talking about that timeline, and we're reflecting. I said to him, "Why were you such an asshole back then?" Now you're talking about the same thing here. You're talking to yourself basically, and he said something to me like, he said, "I don't know how to explain it." He said, your love was easy to abuse. You were easy to abuse. Now, if I hadn't done that work on myself, understanding myself, I could have very much gone into a very insular place and taken it all very personally. When I was like listening to what he said.
Yeah.
And what he was saying was it was easier for him to abuse the love that I am than acknowledge the abuse that he was relentlessly, repeatedly enduring himself at his own hands.
That's right.
And this is the type of transformational shit I'm talking about. Because fast forward into the now moment, I understand that I was talking to an aspect of me. We were a vibrational match. You're talking about frequency. We were a vibrational match. They're working alongside each other in coherence to extract the unhealed aspects of ourselves. But without the understanding, or the inner standing, as Martin McNichol calls it, of ourselves, you'll stay in the same hamster wheel. So your knowledge of yourself is your power. Your knowledge of yourself is where you reclaim these aspects of yourself that you can pull it all in, stay in the present moment, stop thinking about or worrying about what happened back then, be here now, and in the now moment, make choices from your heart based on the wisdom that you've acquired, which kind of loops all of everything that we've talked about here tonight, all the way back around.
And how do you get there? I remember 10 years ago hearing these basic, profound truths from the universe, very basic, and I would send them up to Soulogy. And, I forgot what I was going to say, but what's behind it was whatever they told me was putting anything in front of you, right? This is what, going back to, okay, how do you do it? That's what they said. You cannot miss, nobody can miss a step on the soul highway. No. So what does that really look like? I've spent 10 years trying to humanize and put in layman's terms, to the best of my ability. All of that is put that's put within me, like through these shows and through my own stuff and Morgan, whatever. But you know how you do it? You do it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Do you think that you yell at people? Do you think that you're lazy? Do you think that you're parasitic? Do you think that you're humiliating, intimidating, passive? I mean, how are you going to find out? Because listen, let's all face it, and we all still do it today. And that is, you put something in front of me and I don't even think about it. I said, no, that's not me. Melissa, you're jealous. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, that's not the point. Or just say you said it to me, right? Todd, you're jealous. If the litmus test is I sit here and you could have said, Todd, pass the bread, or can you pass me the butter, but that doesn't happen. Why did she say that? I'm not jealous. These are just natural action reaction. So just to take a moment to find out who you are, the brutal honesty of the soul, you take one example. Take one example, something that you think you're not. And I think most of the time, like, we have a community that identifies with being an empath. Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you something right now. Every fucking one of you has narcissist frequencies. Mm-hmm. I do. But I have empath frequencies too. That's not the point. I have both. The zero field, the holy darkness, the womb is where this all comes together. And there is no middle ground. This is the great divide. It ain't about people. It's about me. Mm-hmm. Because as long as I'm standing in a polarity, one side or the other, in superiority, inferiority, I am the only possibility for separation. And we can do this, and no one has to do anything for us. That's the whole thing. It doesn't matter if you're in lockdown. It doesn't matter if you're in jail, prison, living off the grid. This is our laboratory. The soul is our laboratory. The soul is the womb, And how do we get there? This is a golden, once in God knows how many Kalugas or whatever the hell you call those things. This is a one-time, one-off. You only get one chance to do it right the first time. And I think we figured out what it's all about. It's called integration. It's called zero pointing. It's called soul highway. It's called there is no exception to what's real. And nobody can take that away from you, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. And that's what's crazy is you hear all this stuff, and it's these cliches. There's these explanations with all these platitudes. And I'm not taking this away because this is what got us here. But it's really nuts and bolts. Melissa, I've known you for 2 years. 2 years ago, when you got knocked off your square, you had a process that you used. You were a different person. You're not who you were in December. I can see it. You're shining. You're illuminated. Okay? But you know what? I see the transformation. I want to know, how the fuck did you get here? What do you do now when you get triggered? That's, to me, what's the most vital, important information available to Todd today.
Mm-hmm. All I know, and like I said earlier, I know nothing, but all I do know is I am committed to diffusing anything inside of me that causes me to forget that I am God in skin. No matter what. Anything.
And what happens? Because I know. What happens when you get rocked now? What happens when you get knocked off now?
Well, the thing is,
how do you do it now?
See, what I wasn't expecting was when I diffuse everything that was active in me that caused me to forget who I am. I'm repeatedly popped into situations now that ask me to remember who I am. And that in itself is challenging too. So you're really having to, as you say, walk your talk If I want to be on the receiving end of the love that I am when it comes to meet me and comes right up and into my face, that I don't run from it. That's nearly the biggest trigger now. Biggest triggers is now that you've met you on this level, because you won't I point blank will not, I'm telling you now, I don't care how it even sounds, I will not compromise who the fuck I am, because I burned everything, and I mean everything, to the goddamn ground to get to this point. I will not compromise any aspect of myself again. I don't give a fuck who you are. I choose me. And what it took to get here, I swear to God, you have no idea. You have no idea. I barely survived it. So now that I'm at this point, I have this essence of fearlessness now, and I'm like, I want to experience being on the receiving end of the love that I am, and that is terrifying. But I'm still going to go there because I deserve it.
See, that's what I thought you were going to say, and I think you did actually, when you're talking about that person that you had, I guess, a relationship with for an extended period of time. What you were talking about, what he said, remember?
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and again, I found to turn everything onto myself. And so if in a situation, and we've all can relate to this, I know we can relate to this when we are the giver. So here I am, and I'm going to give you my love, which is what you did with this person, right? And remember, it's all going to come back to me, but I got to look at it first. Now I'm with this person, and we've also noticed this too. You go into somebody's environment, you're very high frequency and illuminated, and people start projecting on you. It's not like anything you can put your finger on. It's just energy, right? So the same thing happens like in what you're talking about with this relationship. And I thought you were going to say something different. I think it's actually the same thing. But so he acknowledged your love. He acknowledged it. The problem was, if you can call it that, he didn't know. It was easier for him to push back in friction and conflict and energy like that than it was to try to figure out how to match it, right? How to be it. I mean, you're his mirror, and vice versa. And
just to be clear, to be clear, at that time, which was a couple of years ago, I was a perfect match for the experience we had, because I didn't know any of these aspects about myself then, right? So you move through. What actually happened was my actions of who I am. The more I got to know, really understand myself, which I did via that process, allowed him to see me literally standing like this. So I know now I am not the same person as I was then.
Exactly.
I know that he came into my world in that particular timeline, actually to get me to a point where I commanded something so immense into my existence that would stop this cycle of absolute bollocksology that I had been engulfed in my entire life, which was zero pointing. So you're talking a couple of years ago, right? So the modality comes in at the same time I say I have enough, but my actions had to command I say I have enough. So you fast forward to a couple of years later where I've explored myself. We have a conversation in passing. He acknowledges his experience or how he acted. I acknowledged mine. We both understood that that it served its purpose at that time, and yet he's still in the same cyclical patterns in his world. And that's okay. I'm not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
My point is the actions. It's the actions. I know, my God, you saw say absolute bollocksology.
Go ahead.
All I was going to say was that it's what you do with what you understand about yourself. What do you do? And what I did was I just became more and more and more of me. Me minus the filters, me minus the magnet to that chapter.
Yeah.
Which means I
Yeah,
can
and
completely be neutral. I can just be neutral in the scenario now and just have a conversation with my friend.
yeah,
And there's nothing,
right,
nothing
right.
except love. Love for the role he played and the role I played.
there's more respect, honor,
Yes.
directness, honesty. I
Mm.
mean, like breeds like. It doesn't just beget like in terms of attraction. It actually creates it, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, I think that's happening is we're not. Years ago, Morgan told me if we got out of alignment, she'd say, it's sometimes it's you, sometimes it's me, sometimes
Mm.
it's just the energy. Now, this isn't an excuse. This is a reality. And what I'm seeing is we have this process where either through a download from the sun, or probably the more effective one is like a situation like you're talking about with this individual and your evolution with this person and the revelations and epiphanies and expansion that come with it, right? So you have this information comes in and you make a stand, let's so to speak. That's part of the characteristics of your expanded awareness. You're embodying this, you're actualizing it, and your whole fucking world changes.
Mm.
And with that comes these new, you call it new lenses, and you're seeing things you didn't see before, which is actually flow, which we don't even know how to relate to because it's been conflict, you know. And so there's an adjustment there that creates some, some the opposite of equilibrium.
Mm.
Some imbalance or whatever you want. And I think we're starting to understand that it's okay to feel what we're feeling, which is exactly what you were talking about at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the very beginning, you're talking about feeling it. All right. Well, the feeling it part of it is all about me. And there is, because it's stored in the body, and it is real time. There's a huge potential and opportunity there to find something out or to gain or to go into further alignment. Because in that moment where I'm feeling everything, it's only me. And that's the whole point. And that's
Yeah.
embodiment to me. That's embodiment. And I started to sit with stuff late 2019. And I think I'm not the only one. I mean, this is something people have talked about. But I have noticed since March, April, that my ability to feel, no matter how good or bad it feels, is there's a fearlessness in being able to do that now. And I've called in the darkest, grimiest, from my old perspective, situations, events that occurred along the way in this incarnation in the past month. And to be able to sit with, not with the memory and watch it on a video, but to actually feel it in my body. What were you feeling? Where was the pain? Where was the pleasure? Where was the neurosis and the psychosis? All of that stuff, every bit of that stuff, I'm not going to deny it, because I realize that I can't understand it. I can't understand it. I go lay in bed for 2.5 hours and I sit with this grief that I hadn't seen in 10 plus years. And I start to hallucinate. Literally, I'm hallucinating the most grotesque things. I can't explain to you what my body or my essence or my soul was telling me at the time. I can understand the energy of what I saw, and it was grotesque at times. But 2.5 hours later, I come out of it. I don't need to know how it all worked. The fact is, I was able to sit with it and lay with it and laugh with it and cry with it, and I can't. And nobody else was involved.
Mm.
Morgan wasn't involved. Nobody else was in that space. And for me, that makes it easy because it gets complicated.
That's the beautiful thing about being able to look back at every single thing, every relationship, every experience that we all have had. They were perfectly timed with the perfect person for the perfect experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happened exactly as it was supposed to evoke and awake something in me and to evoke and awake something in you. And what we do with it from that point is ours.
Mm.
I
Jesus
am so
Christ.
grateful. I cannot express honestly the gratitude that I have for each and every person that has come into my field. They might not want to hear that. I don't give a shit. I still am.
Yeah.
I really am. I really, really, really am. Because I could not have got to the depth of understanding myself without them.
Yeah.
And that's what I brought into my field. And that's actually what they brought into.
Yeah.
And we all did.
And it all works both ways.
It's worked
This
out
is why,
perfectly. It's
yeah,
perfect.
this is what, yeah, I mean, this is why I talk about in the last few months, because I'm trying to apply it, is there still a charge with my mother? Do I still see so-and-so as this or that? Because I know, and I don't understand it, but I know as long as I think she's a bitch or he's that, it's me. And I don't care what anybody says. This is my own truth. It's me, because, and what's shown me that has been sitting with not words and not images and videos in my head of traumas and of whatever, conflict, imbalances, or world situations, you know. It's just a feeling. And there's something about, and it's not like, oh, let me hug you. I'm like, motherfucker, when's this shit going to stop? You know, get me the fuck out of here. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Not that there's not moments of that, but they're not some type of procedure. It's sitting there going, Jesus Christ, 10 years ago, I was feeling this level of grief and it's come back. What the hell is that? We think we're so smart. We expand. Oh, I'm done with that. But I learned something. I learned this was beyond learning in late 2019 to sit with my emotion of anger or sadness, or whatever the case was. This was something deeper, man. This was like cellular. This was like atomic within my body. Every single atom in my body was constructed or deconstructed by my separation from this seminal moment in my life. Because that feeling lasted for me for 2 years. I went back there. I spent 2.5 hours. I went through some weird stuff. You would have thought I was on psychedelics. I did. You know, I would have thought twice, right? But there's something about it. That's me. That was me. That is me. And now I can look at the people that were involved, even though I was working on them then, and it's a different light. Do I have work to do? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. The love I have for these, the people in my history allows me the peace in my present.
Yeah.
And for that, there's no words for.
Yeah.
None. And from doing the 0 pointing, if to answer a question you asked ages ago, but it was what happens if you get triggered now. I understand which version of me shows up. Like I had teenage version of me kicking the shit out of a football from one end of my garden to the next because I was being met with the love that I am, and I was resisting and wanting the situation to just piss off, and I was able to acknowledge, oh, that's teenage Melissa. What does she need? But she needs to know that, you know, I got this and that we're safe, and I'm not going to make a shite of everything like the teenage version had processed that I had. And that right now everything is okay. It's really cool. It's really cool.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then the thing you said about this example that you gave, and you could say about any example, everything's changing. Every single thing is changing. And obviously, no matter what you think, everything's expanding. It doesn't have a choice. An example would be more people transitioning because maybe they're just not able to do it or whatever the case is. But my point is, we're not so, smart that I've expanded, therefore I leave these things behind. Because there's a part of us, and this is the real part of it, the ego says we're smart. And this is what we're talking about at the beginning. And the soul can say now, yeah, we are smart.
We're courageous,
that's for sure. Don't get too full of yourself. Yeah. My whole point is the expansions are probably our greatest probability because it's to a point inevitable. But the expansions are our greatest probability of another level of separation. Okay. From our human and certainly from other mirrors. So all I'm trying to say is everybody's getting something out of it. And even if we can't see it, everybody's getting something out of it. But what happens with those we interact with, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So whether he or she's going up or down or awake or not awake, it's none of my business. And the fact is, if I think somebody's not awake, I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't touch the fallout. Just be here now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to talk for 2 hours and 9 minutes. And
Neither did I, Todd Medina. I need drugs for my spine, my back.
Huh?
For my war wound.
Your war
from
wound.
understanding presence.
So what did you got a tattoo on your back? What is it? Do you mind?
Number 8. Tattoo number 8. No, as in 8. This is my 8th one. My 8th tattoo.
Oh.
The rest are like, I liken it to, I said this to Marina yesterday on the phone. You get tattoo number 1. It's like having your first baby. You haven't got a clue, and it's all woo, and then the needle hits you, and like fuck. And then you get number 2, and it's like having your second child, and you're going, I should have known better than this shit. Well, yesterday it was the equivalent of me having quads. 6 hours, man. 6 hours of that, but it was so worth it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm glad it was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's what is it? Is it a word or what is it?
It's a blue rose, and there's a beautiful story that I won't go into it now with you, but I will again. It's a blue rose, and it is. It's so beautiful. It's a perfect opportunity to talk to you another time, but I'll share it because it was pretty cool.
Let's get back on it. And how do people get in touch with you? I'm going to put it on all the platforms.
Yeah, just come find me on my Facebook page, and that's where I am. And the Facebook page is just me, and then the group is Own Your Shift, as you know. But I've kind of gone rogue from a lot of bits over the last couple of months because I was minding me.
Well, I mean, hell,
you can reach me on the Zero Pointing website as well, zeropointing.com. If you want anybody wants information on the alchemy that is Zero Pointing. I forgot. MelissaDeehan.com. Raina will kill me. My own website is just MelissaDeehan.com. That's right. I like to just drop in all the random things that I write and share that come in.
And all right, that'll work. Okay, so until the next time, behave yourself and keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's very important, and for coming out, and playing.
Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's fun. It's they just keep getting better and better, but I think that's what's happened to all of us every day. Everything keeps getting better and better and better. And it's not, waiting for these home runs and the grand slams. They're not coming. It's a single every time. It's a base hit. It's not we're not going to, and we don't want to. We don't want to go too fast. But yeah, thank you, Melissa. I love you. I look forward to a lot more collaborations the second half of the year. And please, everybody, join me in putting the first half of 2021 into its proper place with all the honor, love, respect, and reverence. Yeah. And it served us well. And let's use this last 6 months of experience and awareness that we've reached to make this second half a lot bigger and better. That's a dangerous comment, isn't it?
Love it.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you later.
Thanks so much. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.